Reminiscence is out in theaters and on HBO. This is one ugly poster, by the way. I really dislike these floating heads. I think it's been a trend in huge studio blockbuster movies for a while now, and I'm surprised, negatively surprised to see it in a mid-budget film like this as well. New film written and directed by Lisa Joy, who together with her husband Jonathan Nolan, the brother of Christopher Nolan and the author of some of his scripts, has been responsible for the TV show Westworld. The script of hers for Reminiscence has been on the Hollywood blacklist for a couple of years, I think ever since 2013 or something, until it was finally made recently and released now with Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Ferguson in lead roles. And the product, as much as it wants to dress up in sci-fi futuristic clothes, is essentially a classic by-the-book film noir. The story takes place in the near future in Miami, which has been largely flooded by, as we can presume, climate disasters. We learned that what followed were wars in which Hugh Jackman's character Nick has taken part as a soldier and an investigator. An interrogator, I mean. Now in times of peace, he uses his interrogation skills as part of his private business. He has this futuristic machine which where you can put a person in a tank, sort of plug them in, and then put them in a mixed state between sleep, trance, and hypnosis, and make them relive specific memories. All the while, the people outside can view those memories as holograms, playing out in real time. Some people use it for pleasure, to relive happy memories with their close ones. Others look for lost or misplaced information. One day, in walks Rebecca Ferguson's character May, and in typical femme fatale fashion, asks Nick for help. He immediately agrees and becomes enamored with her, to the surprise of nobody, because Rebecca Ferguson is, I think, one of the most attractive people alive on the planet Earth. This relatively simple request of May, she lost her keys, is fulfilled quickly, and the two of them begin a relationship because Nick is interested, she becomes interested in him as well. Things progress quickly and happily until one day May suddenly vanishes without a trace. Nick begins to search his own memories for clues, only to learn that the woman had many more secrets than he knew, and her troubled past may have caught up with her. So in terms of identity, I think that the film borrows a little bit from Inception. There's the sci-fi angle of going into someone's mind. It does borrow from Blade Runner, especially in terms of the aesthetic of a ruined dystopian city and a gritty crime story taking place on the background of it. But most of all, it takes huge chunks of inspiration from classic film noir, the works of Alfred Hitchcock and novels of Raymond Chandler. We have the down-on-his-luck tough guy as a protagonist, we have femme fatale in trouble and bringing trouble, violent goons, slimy criminals, suspicious businessmen, and police with their procedures and tied hands. It's all here. The story is properly convoluted and filled with twists, which I learned some people on the internet criticized, saying it was overly complicated, but I actually liked it for that. I think that the skeleton of the story works very well. The problems for me lie in execution. Some of the writing, particularly the voiceover that Nick occasionally provides for the scenes, which again made me think of that infamous cat of Blade Runner. The writing for that is just super cheesy and on the nose and pompous, and some of the dialogue is also guilty of this. I also think that the movie has some pacing issues, dragging in the final 30 minutes. I didn't much like especially the overstretched ending. I think that could have been done better and in a swifter way. And also there are a couple of individual moments which make you go, wait, what? How was this guy able to enter this building without anyone bothering him? Or how did he transport this other person all alone across the city so easily? Little shortcuts taken by the story, which if you pay attention, do kind of break the illusion of a real world. And speaking of the world, this is actually one of the strengths of the film, the world it creates. The flooded Miami with all the districts at different level of being underwater, the derelict buildings, the fact that the city lives during the nights because the days are now too hot, the ever-present neon lights with reflections in the water, and the fact that the poor people live in flooded, rundown buildings, whereas the rich guys buy off all the dry land and live there. I think that setting is brilliant, and I was kind of let down that it didn't play a bigger role or that the movie didn't let itself breathe a little more with just the shots of scenery. Thinking back again to Blade Runner, I've always felt that that film, while still had an interesting story at its core, didn't care about it as much. It did sacrifice the story in many ways in order to build the atmosphere and the aesthetic of the city, of the world, which obviously worked because it then influenced an entire genre for 50 years and counting. Reminiscence, I think, wastes this opportunity a little bit, because when you really think about it, almost the entire story could just be told in the present day or in the 1920s, for example, just removing the setting and the sci-fi elements completely, and it would have been mostly the same. I think it could have been reworked as a script to take place in a completely different time period. So if the plot doesn't rely that much on the setting, I think you really needed to at least make the city more prominent, make it almost a character in the story so that it's memorable and unique. But I've been ragging about the faults of the film, and that may give the impression that I completely didn't like it, which is not true. I think even for all its shortcomings, it's still an okay movie. I personally really like film noir, so the whole detective crime femme fatale genre. So it clicked for me quite nicely, and despite its flaws, I mostly enjoyed myself. I think it could have been much better if the execution was better thought out. So as a result, we have a decent film that will probably be somewhat forgotten, unfortunately, amongst other unremarkable crime films.